Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Harshmeet Singh and I welcome you all to today's session. This is a series of videos where, as you know, we have been discussing the most important current affairs topics, especially from economics. The endeavor is quite simple. We want to make sure that before 25th of May, that is this year's prelims examination, you are extremely well prepared to answer each and every question, especially if it pertains to topics that have been in the news. As a part of this endeavor, we have been running this series since the beginning of this week. This is your class number 6 of economics, where we have been discussing the most important topics that have been in the news with respect to economics. As you know, with each and every question or with each and every topic, we have a few practice questions for you also, so that you can test your knowledge whether you were able to understand the topic or not. We also have a bunch of previous year questions to again make you practice on what kind of questions are usually asked by the UPSC. Before we begin today's session, once again reminding you that if you are one of those who is aiming for appearing for the UPSC examination in 2026 or beyond that, we at Narayana IAS Academy have a couple of offerings specially tailored for your needs. There is a 1-year program and there is a 2-year program that covers each and every aspect of the UPSC CSE, starting from the prelims, then the mains preparation, and then guidance for the interview stage as well. The programs are tailored to suit your requirements. There will be mentorship provided to you to make sure that each and every weakness that you have is covered well before the examination. There will be special focus on mains answer writing, prelims practice papers, CSAT, and much more. Each and every aspect of the preparation will be covered by our expert mentors here. If you have any questions about our preparation courses, please feel free to check out the description of the video. There is a link there. You can go to our website, check out all the information that you require so that you can make an informed decision about why we are here and why we are best suitable to help you in your UPSC preparation. With that out of the way, let's begin the topics that we have. This is a class number 6 of economics. If you have not attended any of the earlier classes, please go to our YouTube channel. You can see the entire playlist. Do see the earlier classes as well. All of these are extremely helpful for you to revise all the topics from economics. The topics that we are taking up today will specifically be from agriculture. Agriculture, as you know, is an important part of GSC. That is, it's a sub-part of economics in the UPSC CSE syllabus, and that is why all the agriculture related stuff is usually discussed in economics. Economics is related in economics. Also, if you look at the previous year questions, for example, in agriculture, you will see a lot of questions from different topics. For example, about cropping patterns, about new agricultural practices, about the new schemes that the government has launched in the field of agriculture. All of these are important and are asked quite repeatedly in the UPSC examination. So here we are with our first topic for the day. The first topic for the day that we have is called National Mission on Edible Oils, that is oil seeds. What is the topic all about? Let's try and understand this. Very often we talk about the fact that India imports a lot of crude oil, which is a fact. But we ignore the fact that we also import a lot of edible oil, that is vegetable oil, the oil that you use in your kitchen. India is highly dependent on import of this kind of oil. We usually depend on countries such as Malaysia, Indonesia, which send a lot of palm oil to India. Now, the government of India wants to correct that. Not only does the government want to reduce our import bill, especially when it comes to edible oil, the government also wants to push our own farmers in the direction of them cultivating oil seeds on their own, so that we can have most of our production at home. To give a further push to this idea, to have our farmers producing oil seeds, focusing on oil seeds, that is why the government of India has launched something called the National Mission on Edible Oil, especially focusing on oil seeds. Now please understand, oil of different categories or different varieties is usually extracted from the seeds. So we are focusing on making these oil seeds from where the oil can be extracted in the best possible manner. The context of this news, why it is in the news, is the Union Cabinet officially approved this mission for 2024-25 till 2030-31. So it will be a 6-year long mission under which the government of India has made certain aims that they want to achieve, especially in our oil seed production. Let's see what exactly is this. Now, this is a scheme under which the Indian government is hoping to boost the production of edible oil and oil seeds. This is a central sector scheme. It's a very, very, very important part of information. See, whenever you come across any government scheme, and you would have read about many government schemes in the past in the newspaper or current affairs magazines, whenever you read a government scheme, there are certain things about those schemes that you should make a note of. So whatever schemes, for example, you come across, kind of make a table. Name of the scheme, then what ministry or what department is it that is running the scheme? Is it a central sector scheme or a centrally sponsored scheme? What is the objective of the scheme? What are they trying to achieve? Who is the target audience? Is it for urban area, rural area, women, old age? Who exactly is it targeting? If you cover these parts, you should be able to answer most of the questions on government schemes. Now, this particular scheme that we are talking about, the National Mission on Edible Oil, that's a central sector scheme. Now, please understand what do you mean by central sector scheme. So, there are mainly two types of scheme by the central government. There is central sector and then there is central sponsored or centrally sponsored. The difference is when you say it's a centrally sponsored scheme, that means there is a division of expenditure between the center and the state. Centrally sponsored scheme would mean in usual cases central government would bear 60% of the expenses while the state government would bear 40% of the expenses. This might change in few cases. For example, there are certain states, hilly states, the Himalayan states, the northeastern part of the country, some states that were earlier given the category of the special status. All these states which the government thinks are weaker in their fiscal standards, for those states the government says, okay, we will give 90% and the state government should give only 10%. This is usually for Himalayan state and for northeastern states. On the other hand, central sector scheme means it is 100% centrally sponsored. The state government doesn't have to pay anything, the central government is the one that will pay the money. So this particular scheme, the National Oilseed Mission, that is specifically a central sector scheme, so all the money is coming in from the central government. That's point number one. Also, it is aimed at rural development. It is a sub-scheme. It's a part of Pradhan Mantri Annadata Aay Sanrakshan Abhiyan. As the name suggests, there is a mission that the government is already running specifically to secure the income for the farmers in India. As you know, in the past few years, the government has been talking a lot about farming. The government, a few years back when they first came to power in 2014, had announced that we want to double the farmers' income. Although they have not been able to achieve that goal, but the government has been trying consistently to improve farming quality in India and diversify agriculture, under which they launched this Pradhan Mantri Annadata Aay Sanrakshan Abhiyan. Under this particular scheme is being launched. So this again is an initiative to help the farmers preserve their income opportunities, to have more sources of income. This entire scheme has been allocated about 10,103 crore rupees. Majority of the funding will come from the government, while the private sector also is being encouraged to bring in the investment. Now, the government of India, obviously, in most of the cases, always open and willing to have private sector participation. It will work in the interest of the government. It will make sure that the government doesn't have to bear the entire financial burden, so that they can also have participation. Not just the participation and the money. When the private sector comes in, they will also bring in their expertise, they will also bring in their connections, so it will be easier for the production of oil to be then sold in the market. This is where the private sector also, government thinks, should get involved. The duration, as we discussed, is from 2024-25 to 2030-31. That is the entire idea. Who will it benefit? What is the target audience? As I said, with every scheme, you should make a note of the target audience. The target audience in this scheme will be farmers who are cultivating oil seeds. Which kind of oil seeds mainly? Mustard, soybean, sunflower, groundnut. This is the oil seed that we are focusing on. Also, if you remember, ever since the Ukraine-Russia war has been going on, one of the outcomes of the war has been that the prices of edible oil has increased around the world. One of the reasons being that sunflower or sunflower oil is a big commodity that is exported from Ukraine to other parts of the world. And because Ukraine is now involved in that war, that production and that supply chain has been affected. That has had a very detrimental impact on the prices of these oil seeds around the world. This again gives an opportunity for the government to make sure that we are able to use that situation into our advantage and give a push to our farmers and cultivation of these oilseeds within the country. It also involves small marginal farmers. Usually you will see most of the government schemes are aimed towards small and marginal farmers only. For example, all of you I'm sure would have heard of the PM Kisan Yojana, under which the government of India transfers 6,000 rupees per year to the farmers. Even these kind of schemes are never aimed to cover all the farmers, because see, amongst the farming community there are a lot of them that have huge pieces of land that are financially very secure. The government would not want to give them any benefit, so most of the government schemes are specifically aimed at small and marginal farmers. Then this particular scheme also aims to positively impact the farmer producer organization, agribusiness entities, all of them. And then the private sector that is being encouraged to come on board, they will also get involved in processing and value chain development. Please understand, just cultivating oil seed is just one part of the huge picture. You cultivate oil seed, then you have to extract oil from that. So that requires high-tech machinery. Much of that oil may have to be refined also before being sold in the market. Then you might have to store it, you might have to do a lot of standardization of quality. All of that requires expertise, and all of that requires different steps in this entire ecosystem. This is where private sector is also expected to play an important role in this particular mission. Now, these are the key components of this mission. This is what the government is planning to focus on. First, the government is planning to ensure that there is availability of high quality seeds and technology. So, see, outcome of the cultivation, how much is the farmer able to harvest, depends upon a lot of factors obviously. It depends upon factors such as availability of resources, availability of water, availability of land, expertise of the farmers. But most of all, the one factor that will determine your outcome or your output will be the quality of the seeds. This is why even when you read about, for example, Green Revolution in India, one of the main points of Green Revolution was introduction of high yielding variety of seeds in India. For oil seeds mission also, seed availability is extremely important. For that, the government has launched a portal, an online portal. I'll just show a screenshot to you as well. They launched an online portal called Sathi. Sathi here stands for Seed Authentication, Traceability and Holistic Inventory, so that high quality seeds are available to be distributed to the farmers in a time bound manner. See, one very important part about agriculture is it's very time sensitive. So there is a specific season, there is a specific month in which you must start your agriculture cycle. Otherwise, if you lose that time and if you plant your seed, let's say 2 weeks later, 3 or 4 weeks later, it will never give you the kind of output that you would have gotten otherwise. So it's important to not just have high variety of seeds or high yielding variety of seeds, but also to have it in a time bound manner, in a timely manner. You must have that. Then there is also focus on value chain development, formation of 600 value chain clusters across over 347 districts. Oil extraction efficiency also is a focus. As I told you, just producing oil seeds, just harvesting oil seed is not enough. You have to extract oil from it as well. And for it to make sense financially, you must extract as much oil from these oil seeds as possible. So your efficiency has to be tested. Post-harvest infrastructure, how would you take this oil seed, then store it, conserve it, then take it to the refineries? All of that is the focus of this particular mission. So it's not just about giving money, it's about where the money is being used, what infrastructure will it be put into. All this will be taken into consideration. This is a screenshot that we have taken from the Sathi portal that the government has launched under this mission. If you can see, it tells you about what are the services that are being offered. Now, I'll also tell you one more thing. Whenever you read about a government scheme or a government mission, one of the easiest ways and to get the most authentic information to learn about that is to just visit that website. Most of the government schemes or initiatives or portals are live. You can just visit them online, just spend 5 to 10 minutes there, and you will get a lot of information from the most authentic source. So Sathi portal, for example, tells that it offers registration of seed producing agencies. So if the government is buying seeds, they would also engage a lot of agencies that are actually selling seeds. So if you want to sell seeds, high quality seeds to the government, then you can register here. This is what the portal allows. The portal also allows registration of seed processing plants. So in a lot of these cases, the seeds are not directly used by the farmers. They have to be processed before they are actually used for cultivation. This portal of the government also allows you to get license of seed dealership if you're one of those who are actually selling seeds. Then it allows you to download field inspection report and find the tag number to trace whether the seed that was used by you, what was the quality of that seed, tracing the entire supply chain of that. All these are services that are offered by the Sathi portal. These again are those kind of informations that can very easily be asked in the prelims. So they can be very easily asked, a question that can be asked is, which of the following services are offered on the Sathi portal of the government under the National Mission on Edible Oil? And these are the services that you should know are being offered right now by the government in its portal. The idea again, as we discussed earlier, the single biggest objective of the government behind launching such kind of a mission is to attain self-sufficiency. We are so obsessed with the fact that we import a lot of crude oil that we forget the fact that we also import huge amount of edible oil. Edible oil again is used very heavily in Indian cuisine especially. A lot more oil is used as compared to some of the Western countries which do not use a lot of oil in their cooking. That is why India has a huge import bill on edible oil as well. So government wants to be self-sufficient there. We aim to increase domestic oilseed production from 39 million to about 69.7 million. So the idea is to lump sum, not exactly but lump sum, get it double. So whatever production that we have right now, we want to double it up. It also wants to give a boost to farmers' income. Yesterday we discussed about the idea of MSP. So for oilseeds also, government is aiming to give a fair MSP so that the farmers can be encouraged to indulge in oilseed production. Environmental benefits, oilseed production, it will not be just done in a haphazard manner. The government wants it to be done in an environmentally sustainable manner in the long run, and it will have an economic impact. So the idea is that we want to make sure that we can conserve our foreign exchange by reducing oil import via 20% import duty on edible oil. Now please understand, what is it that the governments usually do in order to give a boost to your local industry? See what Donald Trump is doing right now. Donald Trump, for example, is announcing tariffs. Now, one of the objectives of announcing tariffs is that when you announce tariffs on a product coming in from other countries, that means you are making that product more expensive. So your own population will not buy a product now coming in from outside because it is expensive. Rather, it will buy products made within your country. That is how you give a boost to your own production. This is what the government is hoping to do here as well. We are hoping to put about 20% import duty on edible oil. So if an oil comes in from another country, edible oil, we will make it more expensive by putting more duties on it so that our local oil manufacturing gets a boost. So that also is a part of what the government is planning to do. Although these kind of steps might be challenged in the WTO because WTO does not like when a country randomly imposes these kind of sanctions, unless you're America, and then not much can be done even by WTO. But with most other countries, when they impose such random kind of import duties, they might very well be challenged in the WTO, but the time will tell. Now in India, what is the level of seed production? Let's also look at that. India right now is the 4th largest oil seed producer in the world. Right now, we are behind countries such as the US, China and Brazil. It's an important stat to remember for the prelims exam that we are the 4th largest oil seed producer. Again, there's a difference between oil producer and oil seed producer. Oil producer, yeah, oil consumption or the oil production depends upon the quality of seed as well. We may be producing more oil seed than Brazil, for example, but the extraction technology that we have might not be up to the mark. So the result will be that our oil production might be lesser than Brazil. So we are here talking about oil seed production. We are not talking about edible oil production. Do remember that distinction between the two. About 20.8% of total area under cultivation globally accounts for 10% of global production in India. Means out of the entire area around the world that is under oil seed, about 1/5 of that is in India. Yet we only account for 10% of global production, meaning that our productivity is lesser than most of the countries. Please understand there is a difference between production and productivity. Production means overall how much are you producing, the entire quantity. Productivity means per unit of area. Let's say in 1 hectare how much are we producing. So in 1 hectare area we might produce, let's say 5 kg of oil seeds. In China, they might produce 7 kilogram of oil seed in that same amount of area. That means their productivity is higher. So our productivity is lagging. That has to do with a lot of factors again. That is why the government is mainly focusing on the quality of seed, because your productivity, your production depends a lot on the quality of seed that you have. That is why a special focus has been put on that, as we discussed under the Sathi portal as well. Amongst the states in India, which are the states that produce the most oil seeds? These are Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Maharashtra. These are in the decreasing order. So you would do well to remember just the top few, because whenever the questions are asked like this, there are two types of questions that can be asked from this point. Either they can ask you which is the largest producer of oil seeds amongst all the Indian states. That can be one way. Or they can give you a name of 3 or 4 states and ask you to put them in the increasing or decreasing order. Depending upon that, it's safer to remember at least the top 4. That will hold you in good stead, so that you would be able to answer most of the questions that are asked from this particular part. Now, in India specifically, demand for oil has been increasing. See, with increasing population, demand for these kind of things increases. Also, the demand has increased at such a pace that our local domestic production has not been able to keep up with it. And that is why our imports have been increasing. If you look at these numbers, in 2022-23, India imported was 16.5 million tons of edible oil. Domestic production could only be less than half of our requirements. Still better than crude oil. If you know, in terms of crude oil, that is the petrol and diesel that we use, about 15% of that is produced in India. 85% of our requirement comes in from outside. In terms of edible oil, at least we are able to produce 40 to 45% of it within the country, and a lot of it comes from outside. Now again, edible oil includes a lot of variety of oil that you see used in the kitchen. Refined oil that you see, soybean oil, groundnut oil, mustard oil, sunflower oil, rice bran oil, all these variety of oil that you see being used in your kitchen, all that comes under the category of edible oil, over half of which is actually imported in India from outside. Also, about 72% of India's oilseed cultivation is limited to rain-fed farming. Now, what do you mean by this rain-fed farming? Basically, the idea is, when you are cultivating something and you require significant amount of water, you require water in significant numbers, there are two ways in which you can water your field. Either you have consistent rain in that part, but you can never be dependent on rain every single time. The other way is you arrange for irrigation. So you build canals, you have a proper irrigation setup there. The point or the difference between the two is, when you have rain-fed facility, that means you are dependent a lot on the rains. So if there is some seasonal disturbance, if you don't have enough rainfall, your entire production would go for a toss. Irrigation facilities, on the other hand, are considered to be more stable in nature, so that they are more dependent. You can be sure about that. In most of the cases, you would be able to water the fields at the correct time period. So rain-fed farming usually carried out by small farmers, because they do not have a lot of money to put in irrigation infrastructure. Rain-fed farming can have varied patterns of productivity that usually leads to fluctuations. If you have good rain, you might have good output. If you don't have good rain in 1 year, it might go down. So rain-fed facilities are not ideal. That is why the production remains lower. Major oilseed producing states, as I just discussed, major oilseed production, as I said, states are Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, etc. This is where most of the oilseed production usually comes in from India. Apart from this is not the first time that the government of India is doing something to improve our oilseed or edible oil production. Apart from what the government is doing right now, that is the launching of the National Mission on Edible Oil, the government in the past also has launched certain similar missions. For example, we have something called the National Mission on Edible Oil, oil palm. Now, palm oil or oil palm is the refined oil that is usually imported in huge quantity from countries such as Malaysia, Indonesia, and it's used in a lot of kitchens across the country. For that also, the government of India launched a program in 2021 to increase the area of oil palm to 10 lakh hectares by 2025-26. The special focus was put on northeastern states because their climatic conditions were much more suitable to have large-scale palm production. The increase, the production, the aim was to increase it to 11.2 lakh tons by 2025-26. We are about 1 year to go before this time limit ends. We are not achieved the goal that we had aimed for, but we still have 1 more year to go to see if we are able to actually get to that level. Also, it also aims to push the consumers away from palm oil into other healthier options such as mustard oil, etc. You might have heard this common lingo being used in our household that refined oil should be used, or bring refined oil from the market. Now, refined oil means that you have refined it. So, it has gone under refinement. For health purposes, it's better not to use refined oil, it's better to use unrefined oil. For example, that can be groundnut oil, that can be mustard oil, all these are coconut oil, all these are unrefined oils. That is considered to be better. Palm oil is something that doesn't have a lot of health benefits, rather it's detrimental to health. That's why a lot of health initiatives now are being launched, where if a product has palm oil, you should not consume it. Then the government has also started MSP for oil seeds, so that the government gives kind of an assurance to the farmers that if you, let's say, go away from rice and wheat and you focus your energy, your infrastructure, your money into oil seed production, the government is giving an assurance to them that since you will earn money from that. Remember we discussed about oils, about MSP yesterday, when we discussed that is the minimum price assured by the government to the farmers that we will be willing to buy your product at least at this much price. Also, the government has tried to give them protection by increasing import duty. As I told you earlier, the government wants to make it expensive to import oil or crude oil, edible oil from outside the country. When you make it expensive for the outside oil or for the imported oil to come in, you will give a boost to your own production. These are the things that the government has already been doing to improve the oil seed production in the country. This is a screenshot I've taken from an Indian Express article a few weeks back, where this article talks about the pattern of our import of edible oil, and this is all data in lakh tons. Now, if you actually see the pattern here, look at the major edible oils that we are importing. So, majorly the 3 top edible oils that we import are palm oil, that is the first one, then there is the soybean oil, and then there is the sunflower oil. If you look at the amount of import that we are doing, by far the biggest number is of palm oil. This is the latest data that they have. So, palm oil import is the biggest. Then sunflower oil and soybean oil usually remain pretty close to each other. Sometimes in some years soybean is higher, sometimes sunflower is higher. It's similar to each other, but it is a palm oil import that is the highest. Now, if you look at in the past few years, for example, let's look at this number from 2022 onwards, it has been a declining trend. See, from 2022 onwards, 97, then 82, then 76. In terms of soybean oil also, it has been reducing. So, we have been able to put it slightly under control by using all these measures, by having our own domestic production improved. You don't have to remember the exact number, exact data. It is enough to remember the trend, to understand how the trend is increasing or decreasing. That's how our edible oil import does seem. This was our topic. Now, if you did understand all the parts of it, let's see if you are able to answer a question based on this. We do the same thing like earlier. I want you to read it carefully, think about what the answer should be, maybe pause on the screen, think about the answer, and then you can play again. All right, let's see. So, consider the following statements regarding the National Mission on Edible Oils, Oilseeds. First, the mission aims to increase India's self-reliance in edible oils by reducing the dependence on palm oil imports. Yes, that is the biggest objective. We don't want to import a lot of palm oil. We want most of it to be produced within the country. Second, the mission includes support for price assurance to farmers growing oilseeds. Yes, price assurance mission, for example, would be MSP, the minimum support price that is announced for oilseeds, that assures the prices to the farmers. Third, implementation of the mission is restricted to eastern Indian states with high palm oil potential. No. Please don't be confused. The palm oil mission specifically was launched earlier. This mission that we just read about is the national mission for oil seeds specifically. This oil seed mission is for pan India, for all the states. The palm oil mission that was launched in 2022, that specifically was focusing a lot more on the northeastern states. The oil seed mission that we have, this overall mission, that has been launched across the entire country with no specific region in mind. So, two of these given statements are correct. B would be the correct answer. You have to tell how many of these are correct. B would be the answer to go here. I hope you got this one right. If you want, you can take a screenshot here. It will help you revise later. Moving on to the next one then. This is the second question. It's an assertion reasoning based question. You can read it carefully, maybe take a pause on the screen, and then you can move ahead once again. Okay. Think about the answer. All right. Assertion. India's edible oil import bill is a major cause of trade imbalance. Yes, we discussed we import huge amounts of edible oil, because of which our balance of payment usually remains in negative. It's because of which we have a trade imbalance. Trade imbalance means we import more stuff than we export. Second, the National Mission on Edible Oil Seeds aims to boost domestic oil seed production and processing. That is absolutely correct, and this is the correct explanation of assertion. This is the reason. The reason is that we have launched this because we have so much import bill, a humongous import bill that we want to cut down, because of which this mission has been launched. So, both are correct and is the correct explanation also. A would be the correct answer here. Pretty easy question. I hope you got this right. If you want, you can take a screenshot from here. Do remember, as I had told you multiple times earlier as well, the countries from where we mainly import most of our palm oil is Indonesia and Malaysia. They have kind of a duopoly in the world market when it comes to selling of palm oil. Their economy hugely depends upon these kind of productions. Moving on. Related to this, related to agriculture specifically, there was a question asked in 2021. Slightly tricky, it's a long question. Maybe read it carefully, pause on this screen, think about what the answer should be, lock it in your mind, and then you can start again and see if you got this right or not. All right. So, in the context of India's preparation for climate smart agriculture, consider the following statements. First, the climate smart village approach in India is a part of a project led by the Climate Change, Agriculture and Food Security, an international research program. That is absolutely correct. There is an international research program that has been working with multiple countries on something called the climate smart village. That is where the villages make sure that their agriculture is aware of the climatic conditions, and whatever they do is in line with the climatic requirements of that particular village. The project CCAFS, that is this one, is carried out under a consultative group on international agriculture research headquartered in France. That is also correct. It was a difficult question to answer in 2021 because these very factual questions, fact-based questions, the problem with these questions is there is no logic behind it. Either you know this or you don't know this. You can't make assumptions and calculations that, oh, it would be in France because this is in France, etc. There is no connecting factor to it. Either you know this as a fact or you don't know this. That's why it makes these questions slightly more difficult. Third, the International Crops Research Institute for the Semi-Arid Tropics in India is one of the CGIAR's research centers. Yes. So, it has a research center in India also, which is this one. Very difficult question to answer. The answer here is D. In most of the students, when this question was asked in Prelims 2021, actually left this question. They did not attempt this because again, it's a pretty factual question. The problem with factual questions is that either you know it or you don't know it. There's not much that you can do anyways. If you want more information about this, do take a screenshot from here and you can revise it later on just in case a related question is asked again. Let's move on then to the next topic. The next topic that we have again related to agriculture is something called the Agri Shore Fund. Now what exactly is the AgriSure fund? As the name says, it's a kind of a fund, and since it has a name Agri in it, that means it is a fund related to agriculture, which is absolutely correct. So the idea is simple. The government wants to give a push to agriculture by every means possible. One of the important shortcomings in the field of agriculture, why the production remains lesser, why we have not been able to compete with major countries around the world, is because we do not have enough funding in the field of agriculture. So the expectation is that if we improve the funding, if we increase the funding, if we make sure that we have enough money flowing into the field of agriculture, we might not face this problem. That is a basic idea. Because of it, the Government of India launched something called the AgriSure Fund. So in simple terms, it's a fund that has been launched by Union Minister for Agriculture, Farmers Welfare to ensure that in the field of farming, each and every aspect of it, be it the farming thing, be it development of infrastructure, be it research initiatives, all of that do not have any paucity of funds, that they are able to get enough funds for their requirement. That is what the AgriSure Fund is. AgriSure here stands for Agri Fund for Startups and Rural Enterprises. The idea is simple: to ensure that high risk, high impact technology driven ventures are given funds. See, if you look at the private equity market, or if you look at the funding market where large scale funds actually bring in and invest money in startups, they look for startup ideas that are not very tilted towards rural India. For example, most of the startups, when they are willing to give money or when they are willing to fund certain ventures, they are looking for those companies or ventures that are targeted towards the urban population, that have a better spending potential, that have a more dense population, so that the chances of their product becoming a success or becoming popular is higher. This is where the agriculture sector gets neglected, and this is what this AgriSure Funds wants to correct. The aim of the fund is simple: to promote technology driven innovation in the field of agriculture and to improve the value chain, making sure that each and every step of the way in farming, whenever they lack funds, the government or this fund is available to them. Now, it's not that the government itself does not do that. The government also has tried to make funds available to the farmers in various ways. You all know there's something called the Kisan Credit Card, under which the farmers are given a kind of a credit limit that they can use. Then the government also has the PM Kisan Yojana, etc. But the problem is, none of that is basically funding for business ideas. None of them is funding those people who want to bring a revolution in the field of agriculture. If you want to bring a revolution in the field of agriculture, not just new technology, but new funds are also required. This is where AgriSure comes in the picture. Now, whenever you read about these kind of funds, you first should remember how much is this fund about, what is the amount of money being put here, and who is putting that money. So this is the information. The funding structure is that it will have a total of 750 crore rupees, and it has been categorized by SEBI, that is the Security and Exchange Board of India, as an alternative investment fund. Now, that's in itself a separate topic which we will discuss in a bit. There is a category of investment in India called AIF, Alternate Investment Fund. Now, out of the 750 crore that it will have, 250 crores will come in from Government of India and NABARD, and 250 crore will be mobilized from banks, insurance companies, private investors, etc. Now, I really hope that you have read about NABARD. NABARD is a bank that mainly invests in a lot of agriculture related activities around the country. NABARD usually does not give loan directly to the individual farmers. So what does NABARD do? NABARD would fund the rural banks so that they can give loan to the farmers. So one option, one mandate that NABARD has is refinancing, means making sure that the banks in rural areas have enough funds to distribute to the farmers. And NABARD may also get direct loan, but not to individual farmers, but mainly to, let's say, farmer producer organizations, FPOs, these kind of bigger organizations or cooperatives. They take funding from NABARD, and NABARD does not actually deal with the farmers. So NABARD will provide 250 crore will come from the government, and 250 crore will come in from other sources. Who will handle this fund? Again, a very important piece of information. This fund will be owned or will be managed by NAB Ventures. As the name says, NAB is from NABARD. It is owned completely by NABARD. So the NAB Ventures will be the one that will see how this money has to be allocated, where the money will go. So the best use of this money will be the responsibility of NAB Ventures. That is again a completely fully owned subsidiary of NABARD. This is what an alternative investment fund is about. As we discussed, this fund has been put in the category of alternative investment fund. Now, why is it that these categories are used, or why is it that such categories are invented by, let's say, SEBI? Because for alternate investment fund, for example, the government might have a different tax structure. So government puts different types of tax on different types of funds. This is where it's important to understand what kind of a fund comes under what category. Now, it's simple to understand. When you have money that you want to invest, there are certain options that you have. Safest investment, you basically put it in the bank, you open up a fixed deposit or something like that. That's one option that you have. That is the safest form of investment. Other things that have become more popular now, stock, share market, etc., you can put it there. These are usual ways in which you invest your money. However, if you don't want to put your money in these usual methods, that is in the orthodox methods of bank, stock market, etc., there are some other third options available which are called as alternative investment fund. So alternative investments are investments that are not used usually by common people. These can be private equity, venture capital, there are funds, etc., that are managed in the hedge market also. There are hedge funds. All these are funds that are categorized into alternate investment funds. In fact, real estate investment also is classified as an alternate investment. So this is where alternate investment fund comes in. Now, SEBI decides what kind of fund is alternate investment fund and what is not. As per SEBI, there are three categories of alternate investment fund. In short, it is called AIF. So there are three categories: AIF 1, AIF 2, and then there's AIF 3. This has been asked in the UPSC prelims examination, so you must understand the difference, the distinguishing factor between the three. AIF 1, AIF 2 and AIF 3. These are three alternative investment funds. Let's look at this. So as I said, SEBI is the one that puts it. Mainly, the categorization is dependent upon the risk that it has, the regulatory benefits that it has. So the highest risk, for example, is something called hedge funds. You might have heard this name, hedge funds. Hedge fund is a fund that usually invests money in very high risk ventures. When you say high risk venture, what it means is it can go way better than any other investment. It might lead to your money becoming 10 times or 20 times in a very short duration. Or on the other hand, it might go bust and you might lose your entire money. Both of these things are possible. So it plays on fluctuations. It plays on the volatility of the market, volatility of that sector. So that is usually done by very high net individuals who have the appetite of taking a huge risk. That is how hedge funds work. So hedge funds, because of their risk factor, come in AIF 3, that is alternate investment fund number 3. So that is how they usually divide it. Depending upon what is the risk factor for your investment, what are the chances that it can actually go wrong, what are the chances that there can be something wrong here, depending upon that, you decide, or SEBI decides what will be the category of this. Let me give you some examples. So first one is category 1, that is alternate investment fund 1. So this is considered to be the safest amongst the three. For example, you usually put money in infrastructure building, startups, small and medium enterprise, social ventures. These are the ones that usually do not play on the volatility. They would give you a return in the long run, but they don't really play on the volatility of the market. Venture capitalist fund like angel funds, etc., you would have all seen Shark Tank in some way or the other. So the money that basically is invested in the companies. Angel fund, the seed fund. Seed fund basically means when you fund a company which is just at the idea stage. They have not even started their operation. They just have an idea. They come to you and they say, sir, I have this and this idea. I have this business plan prepared. If you want to give money to me right now, it will be very helpful and I can give you much better equity. So when they invest money at that stage, that is called seed funding, where it is just an idea. It has not even basically started to work operations. That is called seed funding. So seed funds, etc., given to emerging entrepreneurs, all that comes in category 1 of alternate investment fund. Then there are SME funds. SME stands for small and medium sized enterprise. India specifically wants, or government of India specifically, for example, has been trying to give a lot of investment opportunities, especially to the MSME sector. See, the MSME sector is the one that employs the biggest amount of workforce from India. and yet they have a lot of problem when it comes to funding. When they go to banks, they are asked to display large amount of documents, most of which they would not have. They have a hard time in getting funds from the banks. They have to pay a much higher interest rate. Because of all of this, the government of India has stepped in to help the MSME sector by launching a lot of schemes, pushing the banks towards giving fund to the MSME. This fund or any fund that goes to this sector also comes in the category of alternate investment fund 1, that is AIF1. Then there are social venture funds, then there are infrastructure funds, funds for road building, bridge, etc., renewable energy, or any fund that is aimed to have a positive impact on the society, that is social venture funds. All these are funds that come in the category of alternate investment fund 1, so AIF1. Then there is AIF2. AIF2 is that fund that does not take excessive leverage and focus on private equity or similar kind of investment. So the risk profile gets slightly higher in the second category, that is AIF2. These are real estate fund, mainly real estate projects, aiming to have a return through capital appreciation, aiming to have a return because of rental income being high. That is what they aim to do. This is the second category of it. It also includes distressed asset funds, funds of funds. You might have heard this phrase a lot of time, fund of funds. The government, for example, to give a push to startups, starts a lot of these projects called the fund of funds. So multiple funds will pool in their money together into one single fund. That will be called as fund of funds, so that they can have a much bigger capital source, they can have a much bigger capital pool, and they can basically make money from that. Any money going into distressed asset. Distressed asset means, let's say you own a property and it's not easy to sell property immediately. Let's say you own a property and you're looking to sell it because you need money urgently. Let's say you want 2 crore rupees from it. The value is 2 crores in the market, but the buyer knows that you want the money urgently. So he will tell you, I will buy it right now, but I will only give you 1.5 crore. So either you wait for a longer time to get a good buyer, or if you have to sell it immediately, then you will have to take a loss. This is called as distressed sale. So distressed sale is a situation where you are actually selling a project because you are in distress, you want the money urgently, so you are ready to take a loss there. That is where the people who can wait have or make profit out of it. So the fund that you put in the building or that you put in the real estate, because you know it is a distress sale, because you are able to get it at a lower price as compared to what the market is, and then you can make profit by waiting and then by selling at a higher price. That is again something that comes in alternate investment fund number 2. The third one, that is called alternate investment fund number 3, AIF3, is the one that is the riskiest. This is mainly hedge funds. As I said earlier, hedge fund is a fund that usually plays a very risky business. They are, for example, let's say there is a company that is putting a lot of money in the stock market and they have taken a position in the stock market under which they claim that rupee will become, let's say, 2x of dollar, or the rupee will become so strong in the next few weeks that rupee will be almost equivalent to dollar. If you take such a bet in the market, it's very expensive and a very risky bet. You don't know will it happen or will it not happen, but if it does happen, you might be able to make a huge amount of profit from it. If it doesn't happen, you might lose a lot of money. These are called hedge funds. So they play on the risk. They basically try and see what are the high risk opportunities, because higher the risk, higher the benefit, higher the reward. Around the world, the simple argument or the simple logic in any investment is, the safer an investment is, the lower will be the rate of return. For example, which is the safest country in which you can buy a government bond? America. So if you buy the American government bond, it will have the lowest return, lowest rate of interest, because they are not interested. If you buy a bond of a country that is in danger of going bust, let's say you try and buy a bond of Afghanistan government, you never know if the money is coming back or not. So Afghanistan, in order to attract investment, will be able to or will be willing to offer you a higher rate of interest so that you can bring that money in here. So the more danger that the investment is in, or the more risky the business is, the higher are the chances that you will get a better return. This is what hedge fund is. Then there's something called PIPE funds. PIPE stands for Private Investment in Public Equity Fund. So basically they'll spend their money in publicly traded companies. Publicly traded company means a company that is listed on the stock exchange. So you list or you buy shares in those companies that are listed on the stock exchange, but you don't buy at the rate at which it is being sold in the stock market. That is what the general public does. But what you do is, because you have high connections, you buy it at a discounted price somehow. You maybe talk to the company and have an arrangement with the company, and the company is ready to sell its shares to you at a discounted price. That is called PIPE fund. That also comes under AIF 3 category. These are things that can be asked in the prelims. There have been questions asked earlier also on alternative investment fund. So you should know the categorization of these funds into category 1, category 2 and category 3. These are the benefits that alternative investment fund usually have. They offer you a diverse option to spend your money, to invest your money. As I said earlier, if you have free cash, if you have money that you want to invest, that you want to grow, what are the options that are available to you? One obviously is you just go to the bank and have that normal safe investment in the form of bank deposit or fixed deposit, but that may not always work for you. In the form of bank or fixed deposit, you might not always get the kind of return that you're hoping for. So you opt for something that is slightly more dangerous, but is willing or is expected to give you higher returns. This is where AIF actually come in the picture. They help you diversify your investment. For example, not just giving money in the banks, you can invest in real estate, you can invest in venture capital, hedge funds, etc. It has a higher return potential. Again, potential, not a necessity, not a guarantee. You might make a lot of loss as well, but the potential is that you might get a higher rate of return, and it has government support as well. Why? See, the governments also understand that unless they make it more attractive and lucrative for an investor to put money into a sector, why would they do that? If an investor knows that my investment is not safe in other places, they'll only put it in the bank. If the government really wants the investors to bring money in the stock market, to bring money in the private equity space, they will have to make it more lucrative, more attractive for them. So for that, the government offers different type of tax benefits also to alternate investment funds. So if you invest money in these kind of funds, you might not have to pay that much rate of interest, or you might not have to pay a lot of taxes. This is where the government also plays an important role. These are all the benefits of alternate investment funds that we have. On that note, let's see if you are able to answer a few questions. Read this carefully, take a pause on the screen and decide your answer in your mind, and then you can play again. Okay, if you have logged in your answer in your mind, let's see. Consider the following statements about the AgriSure Fund launched in India. First, it is a blended finance fund aimed at de-risking investments in agri startup and rural enterprises. Yes, that is what the idea is. That for those who don't want to invest money in agriculture startup, those who don't want to invest money in the rural sector, you can do that with the government support, because most of the money, as you know, in this fund is coming from side of the government. Out of 750 crores, 250 crore coming from the government, 250 crore from NABARD, other 250 crore maybe bank, insurance company, private equity. So the risk factor is being taken by the government, that okay, we will take the risk. So this is where the fund plays an important role. Second, the fund is managed by NABARD and supported by the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare. Yes, correct. I had told you NABARD owns a subsidiary called the NAB Ventures. They are the ones who are managing it, so it's NABARD only. You can call it NABARD or NAB Ventures. They are the ones who are managing this. Third, the AgriSure Fund solely supports post-harvest infrastructure development. No. So what it means to say it is that it will only support post-harvest infrastructure, not anything before that. That is wrong. Entire supply chain of agriculture from the beginning till the end, all of them can be funded here, all of them are supported here. It is not specifically for post-harvest infrastructure of agriculture. So, third part is wrong, 1 and 2 are correct, B is the answer here. B would be the correct answer here. Again, 2 of these are correct, the third one here would be wrong. I hope you got this one right, not a difficult question to answer. Maybe you can take a screenshot here. If you had any doubt, you can revise this later. Next, assertion reasoning based question. First, and again, you can read it, think about what the answer should be, and then maybe take a pause. All right. Assertion. The AgriSure Fund promotes financial inclusion and innovation in India's rural economy. Yes, that is the entire idea of AgriSure Fund, to give a push to agriculture and the rural economy. It provides direct subsidies to marginal farmers. No, that is not the idea. It is not related to Kisan Credit Card Scheme. Kisan Credit Card Scheme is separate. They provide availability, or they have availability of funds separately. This is specially for those startups and innovative ideas in the field of agriculture. Second is false, only first is correct, so the answer would be C. A, that is assertion, is correct. R, that is the reasoning, is false. So the answer here becomes C. Not a difficult one. I hope you got this one right as well. Now I have a related previous year question for you. This was asked in 2017. Let's see if you can answer this, related to a kind of a fund that we have. It was asked in 2017. With reference to National Investment and Infrastructure Fund, NIIF, which of the following statements is or are correct? So this was asked in 2017. The first statement, it is an organ of Niti Aayog. Is it? No, it is not an organ of Niti Aayog. It is a separate fund altogether. Second, it has a corpus of 4 lakh crore rupees at present. No. So when it started, it had a corpus of about 40,000 crore rupees and it increased, but no, it is not close to 4 lakh crore. This is much lower than that. Both the statements here would be wrong about this particular fund. The answer thus would be D. It's very unusual in the UPSC paper for the answers to be D. Usually you will see, especially these kind of option statements, usually D or none of the above is usually not the answer. Not saying all, but usually. So it's rare, but this time the answer is D. Both of these here are wrong. If you want, you can take a screenshot here. That will be helpful for you to revise later on. Moving on then to the next topic, again related to agriculture. The next topic that we have again is something that the government is doing to make farming more attractive, more lucrative in India, to make it easier for the farmers to take decisions. This is something called Krishi Decision Support System. Now the basic idea is, for a farmer to be successful, to have a successful harvest, there are a lot of factors that are at play. There are input factors, the quality of seed that you have, irrigation facility, fertilizer, are you getting it on time or not. Then there are a lot of other factors that decide the decision that the farmer has to take. So the farmer has to take an informed decision based on information available to him or her. That information, for example, can be the quality of soil that the farmer has, the weather pattern, whether the farmer knows what the pattern, what the weather changes would be, whether I have to cut the crop right now or wait for a bit. All that requires a lot of information that should be made available to the farmer. If that information is available to the farmer, it will help them make a much more informed decision and then have a better and more positive effect in the outcome. This is where the government's Krishi Decision System or Decision Support System comes in. The simple idea is, help the farmers take informed decisions by giving them as much information as is possible which is related to their agriculture. So as much information as possible, be it about soil, be it about weather, be it about the market conditions, every single information that they require, provide it to them in a timely manner and allow them then to take their decision. That is the entire idea. So the reason why it is in the news is, the union government has launched this. It's a digital platform and the idea is simple, to get a lot of information and data available to them and allow them to make better decision making. That is the entire idea of this particular mission. Now let's look into the details of it. First, who is it designing it, who is working here, who are the people behind it. So this, obviously, because it's in the field of agriculture, This is being developed by the Ministry of Agriculture. Along with the Ministry of Agriculture, one other important party that is playing an important role here is ISRO. Because see, when you say you have to make important decision making and you have to inform them about, let's say, climatic patterns, what do they expect and what can happen later on, this is where science comes in the picture. And what better scientific agency than ISRO to help out in these kind of projects. So Ministry of Agriculture has been working closely with ISRO, specifically the Department of Science, to prepare or get this agriculture data. Data includes satellite images, groundwater level, reservoir storage level, weather information, even soil health data. All of that, because see, even the smallest of information can have a major impact in agriculture. If the farmer knows the health of soil, they can make an informed decision how much fertilizer to use, which kind of fertilizer to use, how much pesticide or other things to be used or not to be used. All of this plays an important role. This is where you see such kind of platforms or such kind of systems having an important effect. Then apart from that, these are the key features. What will it do? This entire platform will try and gather as much data as possible. How? It will monitor the cropping patterns. Cropping pattern means at what field which kind of crop is being grown. There are farmers that may change their crops from year to year. There are farmers that may continue with the same crop. Now, in an ideal situation, you should not carry on with the same crop for a long time in the soil. Why? Because that means you are extracting the same nutrients from the soil year after year. The soil also needs some time to heal. There has to be a mix and match, or there has to be mixed agriculture, so that the cropping pattern allows the soil to recover, allows the health of the soil to become better. So it will monitor the cropping pattern. It will see if agriculture planning decision making is done accordingly. It will make crop maps also for different years. Also, it will also think about, or it will also collect data about drought monitoring and real time data. So it will monitor what are the chances of rain coming in, when is the rain expected, because that will decide how much moisture will there be available in the soil. And that is how the farmers can decide the timing of their harvest, they can decide the timing of sowing of the crop. All of these things matter immensely in the eventual outcome. So the real time data will be available. If the farmers are informed in advance that there is a dry spell expected, if the farmers are told in advance that after these many weeks you will not expect rain, that can help the farmers in taking care of it and maybe making alternate arrangements if they have time in their hand. Then it will also have weather or crop weather watch. The government will update the weather impact of crops, means what impact a weather condition might have on a crop. If there is some new kind of scientific study that has come up, if the government wants to share some data with the farmers, let's say there's a farmer who is growing a lot of mustard. So they should know about if there is some new kind of a bug that has come in that is impacting mustard, how to protect it, what the farmers can do, what steps can they take. All of that is decision, all of that information will be made available to the farmers under this particular idea. It will also identify individual field parcel units. So the entire area, for example, a village will be divided into different parts, and individual parts, individual land parcels will be analyzed separately. Because see, for example, the entire village would not have the same kind of soil, would not have the same kind of land. There may be difference in that as well. So the unique need of a specific parcel of soil will be taken into consideration. That is a very, very, very important step. Because see, when you give and analyze data over a larger area, over a larger piece of land, it is not of much use to the farmer, because all the land pieces are different, all the farmers are different, the crops being grown are different. So you can't expect that the data that is being given for one piece of land would be the same for other. Also, One Nation, One Soil health information system will be launched. Under this particular mission, we will have comprehensive health data of the soil type, the pH level of the soil, all of this will be available. We already have the soil health card scheme running, but that has not been able to have the kind of impact that we hope for. This, under this portal, again, soil health, soil pH, etc., all of that will be listed. Now, this is extremely, extremely important. For example, the pH of the soil will determine what kind of crops can be suitably grown on the soil and what kind of crops will never flourish on this soil. And in effect, the pH of the soil will also tell you how much fertilizers to use, how much water to use. If there is excess use of water, it will have an impact on the pH balance as well. So all these data points will help the farmers in making a much more informed decision. It will also include support for innovation, research. It will have a lot of researchers carrying out. So ICAR, etc., the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, does a lot of research on different variety of seeds, on different cropping patterns, etc. All that data will be made available to the farmers. Now the government does do a lot of such stuff. For example, if you look at Doordarshan, on Doordarshan, that is the government run channel, we do have many programs specifically talking about farming in India, especially talking to the farmers and trying to help them and make them even more informed about how agriculture is done. There are many programs on AIR, All India Radio, also done with the same kind of intention. This portal is one more step in the same direction, helping the farmers make a much more informed decision when it comes to their agriculture pattern, when it comes to their output. If you understood this, let's see if you are able to answer a few questions. Read this carefully, maybe take a pause on the screen, think about your answer. Done? All right. Consider the following statements about Krishi Decision Support System, or DSS. Number 1. It is jointly developed by ISRO and Ministry of Agriculture to support agricultural planning. Exactly what we discussed. ISRO, or Department of Science, has worked with Ministry of Agriculture to come up with this so that ISRO can give the most relevant, most important and most factual information which the Ministry of Agriculture can dissipate to the farmers in the most efficient manner. It integrates satellite data with ground level crop and soil information to generate actionable insights. Yes, absolutely. Actionable insight means, for example, let's say you tell the farmer that in soil moisture content is this much, XYZ, whatever. Now the farmer will tell you, what should I do with this? Tell me that part. If you just tell the farmer that, okay, this is the soil content, this is the soil moisture, you are not helping the farmer. You have to interpret that. You have to tell, because this much is the soil content, you should water your fields this much more or this much less. That is actionable insight. You don't just share random data. You actually tell them that, okay, this is the data available, which means that this should be done, or which means this is what has to be done. This is where it plays an important role. Third, the platform offers real-time price forecasting, assist farmers in choosing remunerative crop. No. So the price forecasting thing is not a part of this portal. There are other portals of the government that talk about price forecasting, that talk about what price can you expect in the market, but this particular portal is not, it does not include price forecasting especially. And again, as I said, there are separate portals of the government that do such a thing, because the government knows the fact that you have to push farmers towards making informed decision, or you have to push the farmers away from certain crops such as wheat and paddy. In order to do that, you have to make it financially much more lucrative for them. So this lucrative aspect can only be done when the farmers, for example, know for a fact how much price can I expect in the future. So there are certain portals that do that stuff, but no, the Krishi Decision Support System, this portal does not talk about price forecasting. So second and first are correct. B would be the answer here. The third one here is wrong. I hope you got this one right. Not a very difficult question to answer if you have been paying attention here. If you want, you can take a screenshot here if you want to revise it later on. Moving on to another practice question specifically on this topic. Read this carefully, see if you can answer this correctly. It's an assertion reason based question. Think about what the answer should be. Maybe take a pause on the screen, think about what the answer is, and then you can play again. Assertion: Krishi Decision Support System improves the efficiency of agricultural input use and reduces risks to the farmer. Absolutely correct. That is what the system is all about. It makes sure that whatever decision the farmer is taking, it is all based on factual information that is given to them. makes it easier for them to take decision, makes sure that risk involved with the decision making is reduced as much as possible. Second, it provides farmers with credit scoring and insurance premium subsidy. Again, no. See, the money related aspect is not covered here. We discussed in the last question as well. Money related aspect, the price discovery thing and the premium that they have to pay. There are separate portals for that are operational, that are running, but the Krishi decision support system is not doing that. The Krishi DSS or the KDSS is not focusing into these kind of things. So the credit score of the farmers, etc. First again is correct, the second is wrong. C would be the correct answer here. C is the correct answer. Again, not a difficult question to answer. Now I have a previous year question as well related to this topic. Let's see if you could answer that one. Slightly difficult. Think about it. Take a pause on this. It's a longer question. Think about what the answer should be and then we can move ahead. All right. With reference to circumstances in Indian agriculture, the concept of conservation agriculture assumes significance. Which of the following fall under conservation agriculture? So conservation agriculture basically simply means using those kind of techniques that conserve the soil and the nutrients in soil as well. They are more about sustainable practices in agriculture. Don't just focus on what the outcome is. Don't just focus on are we able to improve our production or not. Also focus on these aspects, that is, are we able to ensure that the soil remains better or for long term usage, is it available for us or not, are the nutrients of the soil being taken care of not. With that in mind, let's see. First, avoiding monoculture practices. Now this is interesting. Avoiding monoculture practice, yes, it is a good way. As I said earlier, monoculture means growing one specific crop over and over again in the soil that extracts specific amount of or specific type of nutrient, which is not ideal. However, having said that, it is not ideal, but it is not prohibited or it is not something which is a part of conservation agriculture. Means conservation agriculture does not prohibit monoculture practices. It doesn't say monoculture practice should not be done. It is generally understood that monoculture practice is not something that is good for the long run, but conservation agriculture does not speak against it entirely. So first would be wrong. Adopting minimum tillage, that is correct. That is an important component of conservation agriculture. Minimum tillage basically means minimum disturbance in the soil. Let the soil be, just give it time to recuperate, to bring the nutrients back to itself. You don't have to disturb the soil. So having minimum disturbance in the soil is called as minimum tillage. So adopt this idea of minimum tillage, which is again correct. Avoid the cultivation of plantation crops. No, this is not something that conservation agriculture says. They don't say that cultivation of plantation crops should be avoided. What are plantation crops? Plantation crops are the ones that are usually grown in over a large amount of area. There are similar number of trees that are grown just for selling purposes, like eucalyptus, etc., that are grown in large numbers. That is plantation crop. Sugarcane also a kind of plantation crop. Using crop residue to cover soil moisture. Yes, this is a part of conservation agriculture, to make sure that crop residue can be used in the next cycle. For example, do you hear a lot about burning of stubble now? Burning of stubble again is a major component of why North India, specifically Delhi for example, faces a lot of pollution related issues in November. That is a time of burning of stubble. So the alternate idea is, if you just let the stubble remain on the field, it will add a lot of value to the soil later on, and in the next cycle it can be even more helpful. So yes, this is a part of conservation agriculture. Adopting spatial and temporal crop sequencing, crop rotation, yes, that is also correct. Again, making sure that there is crop rotation. You can have different methods in which you can rotate the crops time and time again. So the answers here would be 2, 4 and 5, C. 2, 4 and 5 here are correct. These are the things, or these are the three parts which are under the category of what is called as conservation agriculture. C is the correct answer here. If you want to take a screenshot for revising in the future, you can take that. Next, something similar that the government did for agriculture, it was again in the news, Digital Agriculture Mission. The idea is very similar to the Krishi decision making system or decision support system. In fact, this mission has two components or two parts, and one of the parts is the Krishi decision support system. That is, under this particular digital agriculture mission, as the name says, the government is trying to assimilate technology and agriculture, bring them together, make it easier and make it faster for the farmers to take important decisions, so that the decisions are taken in the long-term interest. And it is based on technology, it is based on data. That is the entire idea. The reason why it is in the news, the context is that the Union Cabinet has approved this mission. Under the digital agriculture mission, the government has allocated about 2,817 crore rupees. The idea is to involve as much technology, as much data in agriculture as possible. That is what the government is hoping for. Now, as I said, it has multiple components. One of the components is, as you see here, is the Krishi decision support system, but it is not the only component. There are other parts to it as well, as we will discuss. It is an umbrella scheme. Umbrella scheme means something that actually includes a lot of other factors, a lot of other programs. It is under the digital public infrastructure. Now, this is a phrase that you might have been seeing used by the government very often. That is digital public infrastructure. What exactly is this? In the past few years, a lot of very important digital infrastructure is being built by the government, and then it is being made open to the public. The biggest example of this is the UPI. Who created the UPI? Not a private company. The UPI is a creation of the National Payment Corporation of India, NPCI. It's a government-made program, and they have made it available for use for all these fintechs. For example, Paytm, PhonePe, Google Pay, wherever you use the UPI, they have not created their own UPI. All of them have been given this technology by the government, and they just put one more layer, they just put their sticker on the top of it. So UPI is a prime example of digital public infrastructure. Aadhaar is another example of public or digital public infrastructure, that the government is investing in technology, building all the digital infrastructure that can be helpful then for the startups or for the companies who are working. They can take use of it. This, for example, now that you go and buy a SIM card, when you buy a SIM card, now it's so easy. They will just ask you to put your thumb on that scanner, and with that thumb they will be able to identify you, and the Aadhaar data will come in front of them. Now, Aadhaar data is collected by the government, not by these companies, but then these companies have been given access to Aadhaar data to actually see that, oh, you are the person. They can do KYC within seconds now. That is another prime example of digital public infrastructure, where the government is building digital infrastructure for the entire country. The entire country, the companies, etc., can now learn from that. Now they are doing the same kind of thing for agriculture. That is the entire idea, that we have done all these things, building Aadhaar, building UPI, all these kind of things, which are now available in the public domain, and the companies can make use of it. They want to do a similar kind of a thing in agriculture now, so that these kind of technologies and decision making things can be done for agriculture, and the farmers or the agriculture based startups now can also make use of it, and they can make better decisions. That is what the idea of the government is under the digital agriculture mission. What we just discussed, that is the Krishi decision support system. That's one of the components of the digital agriculture mission. As we discussed, the Krishi decision support system will have a bunch of information available to the farmers to take informed decisions about their cropping patterns, about their agriculture. All this information will be made available to the farmer under the Krishi decision support system. So farmers will know about whether they can, what weather can they expect in the coming week or in the coming days, because it is extremely crucial for them to because it depends, or their cropping patterns or the day of their harvest, it will depend a lot on the weather forecast. Then it will also monitor floods or drought. Again, all these decisions that the farmers take will depend upon these kind of forecasting methods. Groundwater availability, how much groundwater do they have? Can they depend on the groundwater for their entire cropping season, or do they have to make some other kind of arrangement? Modeling for crop yield means they can even model that expected yield would be how much, given the present situation of soil, given the present situation of the weather that you have, how much yield can they expect. That will be a pattern. It will not be exact, but it will give you at least a good enough prediction model so that you can take your decision accordingly. All of this will be a part of Krishi decision support system, which in itself is a part of the digital infrastructure mission. So again, the simple idea of digital infrastructure mission is have more and more technology into farming, make it much more based on information, means don't leave the farmer alone to take random decision. Get them as informed as possible, give them as much information as possible so that they can now take informed decisions in the long run. These are the two pillars, as I said, of the digital in agriculture mission. The second pillar is the Krishi decision support system, that is the KDSS. First pillar is agri-stack, that is Kisan ki Pehchan. The idea is that there will be a kind of a database of farmers that the government will create. So what the government will do is, government will issue farmer IDs to the farmers so that they can now identify the farmers in a digital identity, just like Aadhaar. Now, why are these kind of things important? See, when the government starts an initiative, for example, when the government says that I will be giving X amount of money to the farmers, or the government says I am launching an insurance scheme specifically for the farmers, they first have to identify who are the beneficiaries. Okay, these are the farmers, so that there is no duplication as well. All these things are important. When the government says we are issuing Kisan credit card to the farmers, they first have to identify who the farmer is, and so that this is no duplication, so that one person, for example, gets only one credit card, one person gets only one kind of insurance. All this should be based on a unique ID, that will be the farmer ID. Then there will be geo-referenced village maps linking the farmer ID to the farmer data. So once you have identified a certain farmer, you have given a certain ID to him, the land that he owns will now be linked to that ID, so that the government has information, okay, this is the farmer, this is the land that he or she uses, on that land this is the crop that they are sowing. All these things will be linked with each other, allowing the government to make much more important decisions. So when the government now knows that this is the amount of rice or wheat, etc., that is being produced, they would know which farmer is the one that is growing what, so that they can at least get a hold of that, or they can make informed decision. Now, if you are in the rural areas, this kind of data, that is which farmer grows what crops, is usually anyways available. There is something called patwari. This officer may be known by different names in different states. There is usually an officer in a village called patwari. Patwari is a person who maintains a land record, but it's very manual. So these are written records. He or she will be the one responsible for maintaining the record of who owns which piece of land, what crop is grown on which piece of land. That all will be digitized, because that will be much lesser prone to any errors. Because in the rural areas, for example, most of the cases in the court are always about land dispute. Over half of cases in rural areas are where two farmers are fighting that this is my piece of land and this is my piece of land, because there is no proper demarcation with the use of technology. It's all being done manually. So this is what the government is trying to do with AgriStack or Kisan Ki Pehchan. Then crop sown registry, as I told you, there will be a digital survey done apart from a ground survey about what are the different varieties of crops that are grown in different pieces of land. Because again, for a government, it is essential to get as much data, as much minute data as possible about our agriculture. Second pillar, which we just discussed, is the Krishi decision support system. We just had an entire discussion on that. This particular mission would have a lot of information about soil, about weather patterns, about weather forecasting, etc. They will take help of ISRO as well to have geospatial information available to them. They will have soil profiling. They will have about 142 million hectares of agricultural land will be divided into smaller parts. The division of parts will be on the basis of 1:1000 scale, so that there are different parts of soil, different land parts that are available for analysis, and on different land parts, soil health data, soil pH data, soil moisture content, all of that will be made available to the farmers. There will be general crop estimation survey as well. The government, for example, will estimate in what area how much crop can be expected to be harvested, so that the government can make informed decisions themselves about import and export policies. I'll give you an example. When the Ukraine-Russia war was going on, one of the outcomes of this was that the price of rice in the international market suddenly increased, because rice is something that goes, is exported in large quantity from Russia, from Ukraine as well, because they were not, Ukraine especially was not able to supply rice to other parts of the world, especially in African countries. That led to increase in the price of rice, and shortage of rice also was seen. The government of India said that don't worry, we will export rice. So rice was exported from India to many of these countries. However, all of a sudden, when the rice cultivation data came out, the government noticed that in this year, our rice cultivation was lower than last year. So government all of a sudden got cold feet. Government said, no, we can't take a chance. We can't have a situation where rice is not available in enough quantity for our own people and we are exporting it. So the government, in a knee-jerk reaction, stopped the export of rice. So while we announced earlier rice will be exported, we just cut it short because we got so scared that, oh, we are not able to produce enough for our own. That situation can be avoided if you have your own prediction models, that how much rice production, for example, is expected based on all these data and information that is available to you, so that the decisions of the government are not based on knee-jerk reaction, so that these are long-term decisions, and they can also help the farmers as well. See, when you are allowing the farmer to export rice, they will be happy because they are getting a good price, and then you randomly stop it. So it impacts the earning of the farmer as well. So it will be helpful for the long run, for the government and for the farmers in the long run. Both of them can make more informed decisions. This is what the target of the mission is. That is the National Agriculture Mission that we have. This is the exact target that they have made up. That is that over the next 3 years, digital identities will be created for 11 crore farmers, and 2 crore farmers, basically the rate will be 6 crore first year, then 3 crore, then 2 crore. Digital crop survey will also be implemented nationwide within the next 2 years, covering 400 districts. These are very ambitious goals, ambitious aims. Hopefully government will be able to achieve that, but then covering up, as the government is saying, 11 crore farmers, giving identity to them, all of them, not going to be that easy. A lot also depends upon the center-state coordination. In a lot of cases, the center government depends upon the state governments in such cases to identify the farmers and then allocate the IDs to them. So if the center and state, for example, are not on good terms with each other, these kind of schemes usually are not able to achieve the objective in certain cases like those. Especially when you have a state where the party that is ruling the state is a party that is opposite to the one at the center. So for example, in this case, non-BJP ruled parties, they might not want to implement such kind of a scheme at the pace that the center government would want. So these are certain reasons why the government might not be able to achieve the complete target. Now, apart from the ones that we studied, there are many other things that the government has been doing in the past few years to promote the use of technology in agriculture. For example, the government of India is extremely optimistic about usage of drones. Recently, the government even included drone sector as a part of the PLI scheme, the production linked incentive scheme that we have in 14 sectors. One of them is now drone manufacturing, because the government thinks there is a lot of potential in that as well. These are some examples of technology based initiatives that the government is introducing in agriculture sector, giving a push to. For example, there is Indian digital ecosystem of agriculture. It is IDEA framework that focuses on having an integrated database of the farmers. There is the National E-Governance Plan in Agriculture that aims to give information to the farmers without taking any money from them, no cost from them. Market-based intervention like ENAM. ENAM again is extremely important for the government, for the farmers. That is Electronic National Agriculture Marketplace. This is where the government is focusing quite a lot. For example, you are a farmer, let's say in Karnataka, and you have grown sugarcane or you have grown rice. One option is you go to your mandi, you try and sell there. when the farmer takes the produce to the mandi, let's say a farmer has grown 2000 kg of wheat and they are taking it to the mandi, they will first have to hire a tractor or a truck on rent to get it to the mandi, so they have to pay the extra cost to them. When they reach the mandi, the buyer at the mandi knows that as a farmer you can't take it back now, because if you take it back you again have to pay the cost of transportation. So the buyer in this case will pressurize you into selling at a lower cost, because they know the transportation cost is so high from the mandi to your place that you would not want to take it back. So the farmer comes under a lot of pressure to sell at the same day. Also, even if someone is ready to pay a higher price in some other part of the country, you can't know. This is where the government has introduced electronic national agriculture market, under which now you can list your product online. So you can take some small sample of a product in the mandi, they will test it, they will give you a certificate of the quality, they will list it online. You can list it online on the eNAM portal, and buyer from anywhere in the country can contact you. You are in Karnataka, someone from Bihar may contact you and say, okay, I would like to buy this at a higher price, and then you can negotiate with them about transportation, etc. So that is giving more opportunities for the farmers to sell their produce in all parts of the country rather than only being restricted to their own city or their own state. That is where NAM comes in. This has increased the farmers' income as well. Then the drones being used for land mapping, as I told you. Drones are not just being used for land mapping, they are also being used for pesticide spraying, they are also being used for keeping a track and for, let's say, taking out survey for insurance schemes, etc. All that is being done. Then national strategy on AI, that where agriculture has been identified as a priority sector by Niti Aayog, where they are trying to give a push to new technologies such as AI, etc. Farmer support applications have been launched. The PM Kisan Yojana has its own app. The PM Kisan Yojana, under which the government gives 6,000 rupees yearly to the farmers. Then the Kisan Suvidha app, the Hotnet app, all of these are just examples of a few initiatives the government has launched to assimilate and integrate technology into agriculture. These kind of things and examples are very, very regularly asked in the prelims examination as well. So try and remember these names of applications, try and remember these words as well, because they can be asked very, very easily in the prelims examination. These are the initiatives that have been launched by the government to help agriculture and assimilate technology into it. On that note, let's see if you can answer a few questions. Again, read it carefully in its entirety, take a pause on this screen, think about what your answer is, and then you can play again, okay? All right. Consider the following statements regarding Digital Agriculture Mission 2021 to 2025. First, the mission is a joint initiative of Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Information and IT. That is correct. This is called METI. So yes, both of first statement is correct. These are the two that are working together. Now, please don't get confused. If they are asking, or if they would have asked about the Krishi DSS, that is the Krishi Decision Support System. If that was asked, for that Ministry of Agriculture is working with ISRO or Department of Science. But they are asking about the larger mission, that is the Digital Agriculture Mission. So for the larger mission, overall thing, it is the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Information or Electronics and IT that is working. Second, one of the main aims is to create federated farmers databases using land records linked with Aadhaar. We just discussed this. The Government of India wants to give a farmer ID to everyone to make sure there is no duplication of record. The government wants to identify all the farmers individually. They have to depend on the states to do that, but that is the idea, to create a federated farmer database. Federated, basically what they mean to say is state-wise, so that the state governments will create this data and the government can maintain it state-wise to take actions on a specific area if they want to. Third, the mission mandates every state to implement agri-stack solution by 2025. No. See, in most of the cases, when you see something like the state has been mandated or the state has been told that you have to do this compulsorily, this is usually wrong. See, the states, especially when there is no law about it, if there was a law passed in the parliament, or if the constitution now says that the state must do it within a certain time period, then it might be correct. But when you just have certain missions being launched by the government, certain programs being launched by the government, certain new initiatives of the government, that is just executive initiatives, in such cases, they usually can't mandate the state, or they can't make it compulsory on the state that you have to achieve this particular goal by this time period. So this is a big hint. Please remember, when it is about certain missions, etc., which don't have a legal backing, which have not been passed by the parliament, which has not been mentioned in the constitution, in those kind of cases, you do not have this point where the states compulsorily have to do or fulfill something by a certain time period. If it was passed by the parliament or the constitution, that would have been a different matter altogether. So third is wrong. Only two of these given statements are correct. B would be the correct answer here. Okay. I hope you got this right. You can take a screenshot from here for revising later on if you wish to. It is important. Again, agriculture based questions, initiatives are important, can be asked very regularly. Then one more practice question for you. It is assertion reasoning based. Think about this, read it carefully, take a pause on this screen and think what the answer would be. All right. Assertion. Digital agriculture mission aims to shift Indian agriculture towards data-driven governance and precision farming. Absolutely. This is what the idea is, that the farmers should be able to take much more informed decision based on the information given to them, based on the knowledge that is shared with them, so that there are much more precise results what the government is hoping for. Second, the reason, mission focuses exclusively on providing subsidies and procurement through digital platform. No. There is not even one mention of subsidies in the entire program. We discussed about the digital agriculture mission. We discussed about the Krishi decision support system. In none of these, there is any mention of subsidies, or there is any mention of any change in the subsidies, etc. It is just about giving more information to the farmers to allow them to take better decision when it comes to their farming, to have a better harvest. And also, when you have these kind of words, I've told this earlier as well, when you have these words that are extreme words, all, only, never, always, exclusively, these are usually wrong. Because a mission of the government usually focuses on so many different things, so many different aspects, that assuming that will focus specifically or exclusively on one or two things will usually always be the wrong choice. So second is wrong. Now, if you see the options, the answer would be C. Assertion is correct, but the reason is wrong. C is the correct answer here. I hope you got this right as well. Take a screenshot from here if you wish to. All right. Now, I have a previous year question related to this. Let's see if you can answer this. Think about this. Again, related to agriculture, it's a core agriculture question. This was asked in 2020, not very long ago. Read this entirely, think about the answer, lock it in your mind, and then you can play again. All right. In the context of India, which of the following is or are considered to be practices of eco-friendly agriculture? Again, eco-friendly agriculture simply means sustainable agriculture, not using those practices that will harm your agriculture or your output in the future, and thinking about inclusive practices. This is what the question is. Number one, crop diversification. Yes, we have discussed about this. Crop diversification means not adopting one single crop pattern, using mix and match of crops, allowing the soil to heal in the long run. That is what crop diversification is. Second, legume intensification. Absolutely correct. So, legume means pulses. When you grow more pulses, so they have nitrogen fixation ability. So, they can absorb nitrogen in a much better manner through their roots. So, that is something that helps the soil also recover. That is something that is a part of eco-friendly agriculture. Tensiometer use, yes. Now, this is your homework for the day. If you know this, again, great, tell me in the comment section. If you don't know this, just try and Google What exactly is tensiometer used for? It's a very, very, very important instrument. It's an integral part of a farmer. It's an integral part of farming practices in many parts of the country. If you know it, tell me in the comment section. If you don't know it, search about this for your knowledge and tell me in the comment section what is tensiometer used for. Then vertical farming, again, yes, it is an important part of eco-friendly agriculture, because vertical farming you will see in a lot of big cities now, that on walls basically what they do is they plant crops on a wall. These are small plants or plantations on a vertical wall, so that you're using lesser amount of land and you are making the best use of the space available for you. That is vertical farming. That also is eco-friendly. So all these four are absolutely correct. The answer is D. All these four are actually examples of eco-friendly agriculture. As you can see, agriculture based questions are very, very, very common in the prelims examination, be it the initiatives taken by the government or be it the techniques used. Please do remember, this is extremely, extremely, extremely important. This is the tensiometer thing. If you don't want to search it yourself, this is the answer for tensiometer. It's a device used to measure soil moisture. So how much moisture the soil has. Depending upon that, the farmer can take a decision how much water to put, whether to put water right now or not. This brings us to the end of class number 6 for economics. A bunch of topics specially related to agriculture were covered today. Tomorrow is a Sunday, so we won't be here. We will be back with class number 7 on Monday, that is day after tomorrow, again at 12, to cover the next set of topics. If you're new here, do hit the like and the subscribe button. Do watch the earlier sessions as well that we have done so, and please make sure that you share it with your friends as well who are preparing for the IAS examination. My name is Harshmeet Singh and we were live here for you from Narayana IAS Academy. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Jai Hind.